Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ABC's signature conference, Economic Justice for an Inclusive Recovery. We're so pleased that you've decided to spend this time with us this morning. We are actually thrilled that you've made that decision. And just looking at the bottom of the chat, we see a lot of folks coming in saying good morning, greeting each other. This is wonderful, wonderful. But before we get started and we hear from our illustrious group of speakers, we want to make way for Elder Mike Campbell and Ronnie Pollock, who are going to start us off with some reverence. And after Ella Mike and Ronnie do that, the next voice you will hear will be from our board chair, Mr. Brad Rye. So once again, good morning, Ella Mike. I yield to you.
Good morning. The Tamsi Latam Biko, the libation statement honoring our ancestors. Our fathers and mothers came here, lived, loved, struggled, and built here. At this place, their labor and love rose like the sun, giving strength and meaning to the day. For them then, who gave so much, we give in return. On this same soil, we will sow our liberation and a higher level of human development. May our eyes be like the eagle, our strength like the elephant, and the boldness of our lives like the lion. May we always remember and honor the legacy of our ancestors for as long as the sun shines and the waters flow. For our people everywhere then, for Shaka, Samri, and Zinga, Nana Answe, and all the others who dared to defend our history and humanity from alien invaders, we pour this libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
For Malcolm, Garvey, Martin, Muhammad, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, Nat Turner, and all the others who dared to define and develop our interests as a people, we pour this libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
When we say the names of our ancestors aloud, we increase the strength of their memory. I encourage you to say yours aloud as I say mine. Roy Shepard Dade.
Papa Tommy Toussaint.
Mamie Francis Campbell.
Mama Nin John Baptist.
Willie James Gary.
Virginia Underwood. Dominic Roach.
John Albert Dade.
Jane Elizabeth Toussaint.
For those named and unnamed, we pour this libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
For our children, for the fuller and freer lives they will live because we struggle, we pour this libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
For Nguzo Saba and Kawaida, the new system of views and values, which gives identity, purpose, and direction to our lives, we pour this libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
And for our continuing struggle, through which we will inevitably rescue and reconstruct our history and our humanity in our own image and according to our own needs, we pour this libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Sheo.
Ashe. Sheo.
It is done. Thank you.
Good morning. Sego Guego, Ronnie Pollock Yungits, Mississauga the Credit, First Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River, Nidewa Genun, Ganyan Geha, Anishinaabe, Aquaxnoagi Delota. I said, hello, everyone. My name is Ronnie Pollock. I am Mississauga the Credit, First Nation, and Six Nations of the Grand River. I am Mohawk and Anishinaabe, and being Anishinaabe, we are part of the Eagle Clan. I will now offer today's land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the Seneca people who are the traditional custodians of the land that we are on and for their enduring presence. We would also like to pay respects to elders, past and present, of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and we extend that respect to any other Indigenous people who are present with us today. We make this land acknowledgement as a first step in fulfilling our responsibility to critically look at colonial histories and their present-day implications as we pay respect to keepers of the land and to the land itself. We are aware that acknowledgement is not reparation, and land acknowledgement without active steps towards education, support of the Seneca Nation, and sincere efforts to undo colonial legacies means very little. Nyaweh, thank you.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Action for a Better Community, I'd like to welcome you, and I'd like to begin by extending some thank yous. Thank you to my colleagues on the board, to ABC staff and consumers, and to the Conference Planning Committee. Thank you to our speakers, to the Black Agenda Group, our media partners, elected officials, nonprofit partners, and all attendees from throughout the region, state, and country. We'd like to especially express our thanks and appreciation for our sponsors. It is their generous financial support that makes it possible for us to continue with our social justice advocacy. Please join me in thanking our presenting sponsor, M&T Bank, our economic justice sponsor, Key Bank, our inclusive recovery sponsors, Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, University of Rochester Medical Center, and ESL Federal Credit Union. Our community development sponsors, Rochester Area Community Foundation, Five Star Bank, the Bonadillo Group, the Finger Lakes Performing Provider System, Schenectady Community Action, and Greater Rochester Health Foundation. We'd like to thank the Signature Conference honorary co-chairs, Dr. Gina Kyler from Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield and Dan Burns from M&T Bank. A year ago, ABC hosted its virtual Signature Conference series, Racism is a Public Health Crisis, Attacking the Two Pandemics. Like us, we're sure that many are surprised, disappointed, and frustrated that we are still feeling the effects of COVID-19. Less surprising is the fact that as a nation, we continue to struggle with the varied and disparate impacts of racism. In response, diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are underway in many organizations. Notwithstanding these efforts, which we are in favor of, the systems that allow systemic racism to thrive, the systems that propagate poverty and facilitate disparate health outcomes based on zip code, remain largely unchanged. Those systems are the focus of our 2022 Signature Conference series, Economic Justice for an Inclusive Recovery. The conference series goals and objectives include to identify and discuss laws and policies that are barriers to and perpetuate economic inequality for families living in poverty. Advance intentional, sustainable, and inclusive economic justice outcomes across multiple systems. Discuss actionable steps for municipalities, financial institutions, healthcare institutions, and other stakeholders to improve and prioritize strategies that will address economic justice for communities of color, and address social determinants of health through the lens of economic justice. Again, thank you to everyone with us today for making time in your schedules for this important conversation. Jerome?
And thank you so much, Brad, and thank you to you and the rest of the board for supporting our work. It is difficult work on our best days, but we're deeply, deeply committed. And moving right along, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce and welcome to our conference Rochester's brand new mayor, Malik Evans. And Malik will be followed in his comments by our county executive. So good morning to both the mayor and the county exec. Welcome to Economic Justice for Inclusive Recovery. Mayor Evans.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me okay, Mr. Underwood?
I can hear you perfectly.
Perfectly. It's good. It's always good to be with Action for a Better Community. As Jerome knows, I have a special place in my heart for Action for a Better Community. My father worked at ABC for many years as deputy director under James McCullough, who was one of the longtime executive directors there. So I grew up with ABC literally in my household, and I am so grateful for all the work that ABC has done and continues to do in this community. So thank you all for attending ABC Signature Conference. Thank you for your interest in this critical topic of economic justice and inclusive recovery. Of course, I also want to thank Brad Ray and again, Jerome Underwood and all of the people at ABC for hosting this conference for a second year in a row. Thank you also to M&T Bank and all the sponsors for supporting this event, and Simeon Bannister and this morning's panelists for agreeing to be part of this incredible program. And of course, thank you to my partner in government, my buddy from across the street, County Executive Adam Bello, for also being here today. Adam and I have prepared a joint proclamation to celebrate this conference and our community's focus on equity, which we have already delivered to ABC. And because of time constraints on this tight agenda, we'll spare you with listening to us reading it all out loud. The drive to achieve, but I will show, I do have you might see the glare, but here's what the proclamation looks like. So ABC has already received this, but we won't read it because of time constraints. The drive to achieve economic justice, to reverse the sins of racism and inequality is a critically important issue. And I'm so glad that ABC continues to take the lead in keeping this topic front and center in our community. And we know the pandemic has the real potential to make things much worse, and already, in many cases, it already has. So we have to include a strong focus on equity in our recovery efforts. That means there can be no recovery without equity. I know that is what we're trying to do here at City Hall, at least in my first 10 days here. And it's very encouraging to see many people from the private and human service sectors also putting racial equity as a priority in their own roles in this recovery. So again, I thank you all for your interests that are on this conference on this critically important topic. I look forward to working with you in the months ahead as we achieve economic justice and racial equity together. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our county executive. Adam?
Great. Thank you, Mayor. And it is wonderful to be with you and all the participants today. This is actually Mayor Evans and I think it's our first joint proclamation that we've done together. And so, and I know we are honored to do it, and I can't think of a better, more deserving way to come together to show our support for this conference and all the work that you're doing. Obviously, I am disappointed that we can't be together in person still because of the spread of the virus in our community, but I am so glad, Jerome, that you and the team still found a way to make sure that this important discussion takes place. You and all the folks at ABC are just doing amazing work every day for the residents of our community, whether it's job and career help, housing, fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, and so much more. Your partnership from you and the team has just been outstanding, and we look forward to continuing that. But with that said, COVID-19 isn't the only crisis our community faces. We also face a pandemic of inequity. So while COVID is certainly a major issue facing all of us, it's also exacerbated so many other problems and challenges our community faces, and we have to confront them. Disparities surrounding poverty, the lack of job opportunities, housing, quality healthcare, they've all become so much more apparent since March of 2020. So, Monroe County has made a commitment to make these issues the forefront of our economic recovery as we work towards the post-COVID world, which includes our funding that we received from the federal government, our ARPA dollars, the American Rescue Plan dollars that we received because of the help of Congressman Joe Morelli, Senators Gillibrand and Schumer, that will allow us to make intentional, thoughtful investments in our economy and public health issues and the challenges that folks across the community face. And so we're all going to need to work together, and I'm going to need all of you on this Zoom and in this conference and at Action for a Better Community and all our community partners to really help us figure out how we can focus these investments on addiction and substance abuse, food security, housing, rental and homeless services, so much more, and particularly our health recovery. So it's imperative that we really just tear down the barriers that have existed for so long, particularly in the healthcare system, so that we can help everyone recover from this pandemic and tear down the barriers to equity that have existed in our community for so long. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you, Jerome, our continued partnership, Mayor Evans, and ABC, as well as so many of my colleagues that I see on the Zoom. And I'm so happy to see all of you here at this conference so that we can really work on these issues and make Monroe County a leader of equity and inclusion. So thank you very much. And I think, I'm not sure if I'm turning it back over to Brad or Jerome, but thank you so much. And I wish you all a very happy new year.
Thank you very much, County Executive Bello, and thank you, Mayor Evans, for your remarks. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dan Burns, Senior Vice President and President of M&T Bank's Rochester region and the honorary co-chair of this year's conference, to make some remarks. Dan.
I want to thank you and everyone for joining us today. Our team at M&T Bank is grateful for the opportunity to support this conference. It will spark and sustain important conversations and help create positive change for our community. A diverse coalition of community partners came together to help make this event happen. Together, we recognize the importance of collaborating around solutions to advance economic justice and create a more inclusive recovery. This is a moment for us to listen and share and learn from each other, and then commit to selfless action that uplifts our community. The unfortunate reality is that the pandemic created immense hardships for our community and local economy. Many of the partners here today served as economic first responders to help people see through it. But still, we're recovering from the repeated blows the pandemic has delivered. While we're faced with big challenges, there are also huge opportunities before us to create lasting change. Federal, state, and local governments are directing funds to our communities, and businesses are keeping pace with their own impact-making investments. It's creating the conditions to make progress and expand access to critical needs, such as affordable and safe housing, educational opportunities and workforce training, reliable transportation, and strong neighborhoods, rewarding employment opportunities, healthy food and parks for recreation, and support for multicultural businesses and more. There's work to be done, and there's a role for all of us. We'll share more about the work underway at M&T and our commitment to the community during our panel discussion later today. Thank you again for participating in this event, and I'm looking forward to our dialogue.